Hello, welcome to this stream, Alesis Drums in conjunction with Bax Music, and we are here today to look at the Alesis Strike Multipad. Hopefully all of our technology is working okay and you can see and hear me all right. It looks like it's working okay, great. Thanks for taking time out of your day. This machine is awesome, I would say that, but it's actually true, and it's my job to show you why it's the best in its class. It was a few years in development, this, and we're very proud of it. So what I'll do is I'll briefly explain what we've got set up here, and then I'll play through some patches, and as I do that, certain functions and features will be highlighted, and then I'll look at those, and in some cases we'll dive in, have a look at the module screen, and I'll show you how it's all happening. There are some more advanced applications of this pad which we're going to look at next week, specifically hybrid drum setups, triggers on acoustic drums, that sort of thing. There's a great deal it can do, so what we'll do is we'll go over the main features broadly as a standalone device, and then we'll look at in some more detail of the hybrid functionality of this next week. So I'll show you the overview, the top view there. There we go. So you can see what this pad is. It's got 9 live playing surfaces, a nice big screen, and just to give you an idea of what else is happening here, I've got a hi-hat pedal connected, I've got a bass drum pad connected. These are from our Crimson kit. Crimson 2 Special Edition. I've also got a foot pedal over here, which I'm going to use for various features. I'll show you how you can use foot pedals with this device as well. And over here, we've got a pair of bongos. They look huge because of the trick of perspective, but they're just normal bongos. And there's a stereo microphone, and that microphone is connected directly into the strike pad as well. So you're not hearing these bongos or anything like that mixed in a mixer. They're connected, the microphone is connected as a stereo mic directly into the back of the multipad. Right, so let's have a look. First patch I'm going to show you is one of the preset patches, one of the built-in patches, good old rock, and it just gives you an idea of the sound and the feel of the built-in sounds. Right, I'll show you the screen so we can have a little look at what's going on. We can see that this screen tells you a great deal of what the pads are set up to do. This is the home screen, if you like, the perform screen. If you press it, it'll show us what the external triggers are set up to do. We press the perform button again, and it'll show us any foot pedal functions that are set up. But for most of what you do with this kit when you're performing with it, this is like your home screen, if you like. So you can see on the screen there are circles next to those top 2 sounds. That tells us that those have actual loops set up. It tells us that the pad is set up to loop those 2 sounds, those top 2 pads there. All the other sounds have got arrows. That's to indicate a one-shot, a single sound, if you like, just a regular sample, or it could even be 2 samples, or however many you've got set up on those pads, but firing off just as a single shot. So you get a great deal of information just from looking at the screen. Now, if we look at the overhead camera as well, we'll see some more feedback. So the screen is representing the pads, but the pads themselves have also got visual clues as well. The lights can be set up in any one of 20 colors, various animations, or you can switch them off. You can just have them running just as a guide to where the pads are, whatever you want to do. Lots of different setups there. This particular patch, we've got solid red colors for the bass drum and snare drum, solid blue colors for the tom-toms, solid yellow colors going across here for the cymbals, and these 2 cymbals here, closed hi-hat, open hi-hat. They're set up on a mute group, means that you can just open and close really easily. Symbol there. Now these two are flashing, and they're flashing the BPM of this particular patch, the BPM that the metronome is set to. Each kit, each patch can have its own metronome setting, and these ones are set to flash at that BPM. So that's a clue that they've got something to do with tempo. And we've also seen on the screen that there are circles there, and you've heard from the playback that there are loops assigned to these two pads. So these two loops are on a mute group, which means that only one of them will play at once. So if you play one, it will mute the other one. You don't have to have them set up that way. That's just the way this particular set has been made, because of course you don't necessarily want those two loops running at the same time, because they're like a verse and a chorus part, if you like, of that particular patch. So that's just a kind of basic starter of what you can do with the lights, what you can do with the pads. Let's have another look at another one. Ham and Beans, kind of a drum and bass one, this one really. So same sort of thing, I'll just play it and then we'll talk about what's happening. So we've got a number of things going on there. Let's have a quick look at the screen again. See what's happening. So on the screen, again, we can see circles applied to those top two pads. We've got some loops there. We've got arrows going next to the other sounds, again telling us those are simple one-shot sounds. But there's a plus sign on this pad at the top right. So let's have a look at the overhead view again. And we can see again, there's a crazy light being applied to that one. So the plus sign on the screen tells us that there's a function applied to that pad. You can have a sound applied to it as well, but you can also apply a function. You can apply functions to any of the pads, any of the external triggers, and any of the foot pedal inputs as well. And this particular function is the master effects on and off. So as I hit it, we'll see the master effect down here go on and off, down there. And you can hear it too. Once the loops are running, switch the effects on, the master filter. And take it off. And another aspect of this particular kit is that once that filter is applied, you can then adjust parameters of that filter with these two knobs. We call these A-link knobs. They're assignable expression knobs, and you can assign them to it depends on what effects you've got assigned to that particular kit. On this particular effect, you've got some filter parameters. So let's have a listen to that. So there you go, that's another example of what you can do in real time when you're playing with this. Now in terms of functions, now that we mentioned that that's got a function there, we can have a quick look and see what functions are available. So in order to do that, we select that pad and we go here and then we go to control down here, and we can see that particular pad has got a mode which is set to master effects on and off. Let's have a good look at all the options there. You can go next kit, previous kit. Bear in mind these functions can be assigned to any pad or any external trigger, or indeed a foot pedal control as well. So we've got next kit, previous kit. click metronome on and off, tap tempo. So while you're in the middle of a performance, you can have one of the pads set up so you can input by tap the BPM of that particular kit as you go along. Panic. Now, panic's very useful because it switches everything off. It might sound like something you'd use in an emergency, but it's actually quite useful musically as well, because you can build up lots of loops and then you can bring them all to a dead stop with panic. There's a panic button, a permanent panic button, which is on the machine here. I'll just point it out. There we go. But you've also got, you can assign that to a pad as well. Looper record, looper play and stop. Now we'll talk about the looper a bit later. Now here we are with the effects. Kit effects 1, 2 and 3 and master. So we've got, when you look at a drum kit, you've got 3 effects there, and then you've got your master effect as well. So on this particular kit, that pad was set to do the master effects on and off. So that's another example. Let's move on to another kit. This one is called Knife Jogger. Now, it's a nod to a very famous 1980s movie. You can probably guess which one it is. So let me have a look for you. Here we go. Again, looking at the screen, we've got circles. Circles across the middle this time. And then we've got arrows for the rest of it. So let's have a look at the overhead view. There we are, just a short version of that. This is to give you an indication of the range of the actual content that we've got in here. There is more than 8,000 sounds built into this machine out of the box, more than 8,000 once, even just as you buy it, which is extraordinary. And bear in mind, many of those sounds are long sounds, they're loop sounds, so there's just a huge amount of content. And this gives you an idea of the range of the content. This is kind of soundscapey stuff. Looking at the screen, looking at the pad, I beg your pardon, we can see that these across the top are solid blue, but looking at the screen we know they're single shot sounds, and once we hit them, it goes to white, and it's going with this particular setting is called audio breath on the light setting, and that's telling us the intensity of the sound. It's a different setting from some of the other ones. That's doing the same, but when we hit it again, because it's a loop, we can stop it dead. Here we are. Let's go have a look at this one. This one's called Latin loops. Now, we can see that there are circles applied to every sound here. So every sound in this patch is a loop, and this patch is very useful for demonstrating 2 features. One of them is another light mode, which I'll show you, and the second feature is using mute groups to split off different types of sounds. So across here, we've got shakers. Different shaker patterns. And because they're all set in a mute group, if you start one, it will mute the other ones and so on. So you can only have one shaker pattern running at a time. Now, the light mode for this particular one is called the fill mode, and we can see it's flashing a sort of purple color when none of the loops are running. Again, it's flashing at the BPM of this particular kit to give us an indication of how fast it's going to run when it starts. When you start playing, the light then progresses from left to right to show you how far into the loop you are. Very useful. And we've got shakers across the bottom, bongos in the middle, and congas across the top. And you can see which ones are running. And if you start a different, then you've got a different conga pattern running. So there you go. That shows you how you can use the lights to tell you exactly what's going on. Now, that's incredibly useful because when you're using this unit, you could be using it on stage with a band, you could be running a TV show, you could be doing all kinds of things. These pads do a great deal of heavy lifting. They're increasingly very important for touring shows, for bands that need to represent their records. Perhaps they can't afford perhaps to bring out a 10-piece band, but with a 4-piece band and one of these, you can sound absolutely huge. But the downside to that is that there's a lot of responsibility running on one of these pads. And if you start the wrong sound, or if you're not sure what's going on, then you could get yourself in a bit of hot water. So when you can see what's happening, you can see exactly what pad's running. You've set this particular kit up so that you've either got a progress bar, or you've got an intensity bar, or you've got a BPM. You can use the lights in different ways. You can group instruments according to color. You can have your loops one color, your vocal samples another color, your backing tracks another color. So you can use the lighting system to tell you what's going on. And when you're on a show, you'll know this. If you're in the heat of battle and there's smoke and flashing lights and the keyboard player's making a racket, sometimes it's very, very hard to hear what's going on, to actually know exactly where you are. But using the lights, using the animations, using the colors will give you the feedback that you need to stay in complete control. So if you're running a lot of important parts of the show on one of these pads, then you've got the confidence to know exactly where you are with it all. So that's really what the lights are all about. They're there to keep you in control, because if you're running a show and you've got backing tracks and vocal samples and whatever, you're in a very, very hot position. You're in the hot seat. So you need broad shoulders. You need the kind of confidence around you to know that you're in control, and that's what this pad gives you. Let's look at another one. So this is just a bit of fun, really, this one. I'll show you the screen. There we go. And straight away we know what that is. Again, this is going to show you the range of sounds that are in here, and if you listen carefully, you'll hear slight variations as I play these pads. I'll just mute the microphone so you can hear it a bit better. Now what that's doing, there's a functionality within this pad called wave A and wave B. So each pad, each zone, and that includes the external trigger zones and the foot pedal zones, they can have 2 waves applied to them, wave A and wave B, and there's a variety of things you can do with that functionality. You can have both sounds going at the same time, you can have a volume spread from one to another, but you can also do what we call a round robin, which means it goes from one sound to another and then back again. And the pad, many of the presets use slight variations of the same sound in order to get that variation across. So let's cut to the module screen and I'll show you what I mean. Go to sound, and we can see here, if we go to our main screen, go back to sound, there we go, we can see wave A and wave B. And we can see there's an A and a B version within the built-in sounds. Gated tom 01A, gated tom 01B, and it's going between those two, and you can hear slight variations. So that's one of the ways of using wave A and wave B. Let's have another look. This will give you another example, this kit. This jazz kit, again, it's another preset kit, gives you another indication of how wave A and wave B sound. Again, we can hear slight variations in the sound. There we go. And looking at this kit, again, we've got good indication of what's happening. We've got 3 sets of circles across the top. We've got arrows for the rest of these sounds. Now, this particular kit has got Bosphorus cymbals here, really nice, thin, dark, jazzy cymbals. We've got Yamaha maple drums that have been sampled for this, and some nice jazzy guitar. So let's have a listen to this. So there we go. Nice way of just being able to perform all in one go. These presets, they're set up to give you a taster of what you can do, but with more than 8,000 sounds and all those different lighting permutations, the sky's the limit really. Let's have a look at our next one. Next one is set up again to give you a sense of the range of sounds available. Kit of India, we've got some loops and we've got some Indian sounding instruments. Another example of some lovely sounds there, and same again. So a complete departure now. These are all the sounds you're hearing so far are all built in. All the sounds are built in. They're the ones that you get out of the box. There we are, nice fat synth sounds. Right, now what we've got here, this is actually a kit I've made myself. All the sounds are built in, but I've set this particular kit up to show you another function that you can use with wave A and wave B. We call it the foot switch mode, and it gives you the ability to use foot switches, up to 4 of them, to switch instantly from one sound to another. Beg your pardon, I'm just looking at, just checking our YouTube link to make sure everybody's happy, and it all seems to be okay. Great stuff. So, yep, this kit I've set up, this is foot switch mode, which is very useful because it means within one drum kit, within one patch, you can switch instantly between different sounds. Now I'm going to mute the microphone so it sounds a bit nicer. And then the foot switch over here, which you can just see down there, there's a little double foot switch, it's got two buttons on it. As I press that, now I've also set this patch up with the hi-hat pedal. So you see the hi-hat pedal over here? And the hi-hat pedal is yet another use of the wave A and wave B. So in this instance, the hi-hat pedal is switching between the two waves, and we get a nice open and close hi-hat pedal. There we go. And I'll show you on the screen what that looks like when you select those modes. If we go here to sound, these are the sounds we've got. Hi-hat open, hi-hat closed, and there's actually, the foot pedal is set to play a pedal hi-hat sound as well. So making the hi-hat pedal work as part of a mini drum kit is just as easy as having 3 hi-hat sounds, a pedal sound, an open sound and a closed sound. Very easy, and of course there are dozens and dozens to choose from inside the module. You can see here we're on the electronic hi-hat section. Let's have a look at what it would sound like if we moved it to an acoustic hi-hat. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the foot pedal sound. So let's go there, and then we're still in the factory. We go to the let's go to acoustic hi-hats. Everything is categorized, acoustic hi-hats. and then we want to go down here. Let's find a nice pedal sound. Peisty 14-inch Turbo 2 medium pedal. There we go. Now we're going to find the matching open and closed hi-hat sounds for that. So we need to come out of the electronic hi-hat section, go into the acoustic hi-hat section, and then go down to that Peisty sound. I always used to call them paste, but apparently it's Swiss and it's Peisty. So Peisty, and then we can have, let's see what that sounds like. Sounds pretty good. And now we need the corresponding closed sound. So we need to go to wave B. There we are. And then we've got to go back to the acoustic hi-hats category. And then Peisty 14-inch Turbo 2. There we go. So we've changed. You can really hear that open slosh. There we are. So going through the factory content doesn't take too long, because even though there's thousands and thousands of sounds, they've all been categorized. So you've got acoustic toms, electronic toms, same with snares, acoustic, electronic, same with rides, crashes, and so on. They've all been categorized acoustic and electronic. Then you've got percussion's been categorized according to orchestral or hand percussion, so on. And then the loops have all been categorized as well, different loops, and each loop is named with a key if necessary, a harmonic key, and also a tempo, so you can go through and match up your hoops to make your custom kits that way. So even though there's content for days, once you get used to navigating it, it's actually quite easy to get around and quite easy to find what it is you need to find. So back to this drum kit. In summary, we can use foot pedal functionality to open and close a hi-hat, and we can also use foot pedal functionality to swap in between two sets of sounds. Now that can be used, you can either use that function, for example, if you've got a latching foot pedal, then you could have one set of sounds for a verse, a quick tap, and then one set of sounds for a chorus. Or, as I like to do it, you can actually have what I've done here, harmonic sounds and drum kit sounds on one kit, because then you can loop them together. We're going to move on to the looper shortly. It means you can loop a drum part, and then without leaving that drum kit, you can tap the foot pedal and then loop the bass line and the harmonic part as well. And that reminds me, there is another application in this kit of the wave A and wave B. There's a volume blend application. So let's have a look at that. I'll show you the screen. So the top pads we've got here. If we go to sound, wave A and wave B, we've got, as you hit this pad harder, a harmonic comes in. Actually, it's the octave. So that's just me hitting the same pad. And the way we do that, again, we're using wave A and wave B, but in this case, we're mixing them according to velocity. So we go to sound, so I'll take you back to the main screen. We go to sound, strike our pad, go to mix, and then we can see that wave B, which is currently highlighted, comes in at 102. All the velocities are MIDI velocities, so you've got 0 to 127. We can see that that higher octave comes in at velocity 102. So it comes in once you're hitting quite hard, whereas wave A, which is the main note, comes in from 0. So the wave A sound will sound no matter how hard you hit the pad, but the wave B sound will only come in at 102. And of course, this is all completely configurable. You can set this up as you like. This is just a serving suggestion for how you might want to use that functionality. You can have sounds that go in a step from one to another, or you can have sounds that blend across the range of velocities according to how you want it to respond. You can also set sounds to have fixed velocities. Now this is absolutely crucial if you're using things like vocal samples as part of a show, or backing tracks, things like that. Things where as you strike the pad, you don't want it to respond loud or quiet according to how you hit it. You just need it to start, and you need it to start at the right level. Same with acoustic or audio backing tracks. You'd want those to start at exactly the right volume level. You can set a fixed level, and that, again, that fixed level can be anything, but you can set it up how you want it. On the subject of backing tracks and running shows, the pad itself has got your regular stereo outputs. It's also got auxiliary outputs, so you've got left and right main, left and right auxiliary, and you've got headphone outputs, and there are both large and small headphone sockets here, very thoughtfully, so it doesn't matter if you lose your little adapter. Now, those different audio zones can be set up how you need them to be. You can have your main outputs as you'd expect. You can use the auxiliary outputs to run sounds which just the band hear. For example, if you're using audio click tracks, or perhaps your sound engineer at the gig requires your backing tracks to go through a different set of channels to your performance stuff, which is quite likely, really. So that's why you've got the option to have all those different audio zones, and you can use the headphones as a third zone as well if you need to. Crucial if you're running live looping, because you're going to need to hear the onboard metronome, and you don't really want the audience to hear that, so you can just have that coming out of the headphones, or you can have it coming out of the auxiliary if you want to run it through a separate monitor system. And you can also use the headphones as a third audio zone as well, so you can route sounds to the headphones to make use of that as a third zone if you need to. So lots of flexibility to set this up as you need it to be set up in a variety of live environments, really. So let's have a look. Where did we get to? We got to this one, which is Pluck Kit. So we've looked at how this kit uses Wave A and Wave B functionality. Now we're moving on to another kit which just shows off a range of sounds, really. Mikasa, as you might guess, it's a house patch. So we've got 3 sets of loops across the top, and we've got some one-shots as well. I'll mute the mic so you can hear the sound better. So there you have it, more fun. You can run a rave off one of these things. Fantastic. So let's see what we've got next. Again, I couldn't resist putting this one in because it's just such a beautiful sound. And again, it shows you the range of content that's built into this machine. All the sounds you're hearing are built-in ones. There we are, very spooky indeed. Now this patch I set up, it's one of the presets, but I've changed it a little bit. I just wanted to show how you can use the external triggers. So talking about external triggers on this machine, you have got 4 trigger sockets. One of them is designed for the hi-hat pedal. There's 2 different sorts of Alesis hi-hat pedals that work with this. There's the on-off type and the continuous type. There are some settings in the module where you can change, settings in the pad rather, where you can make changes to the way the hi-hat pedal responds. So It's quite configurable and quite flexible. So you've got, in addition to the hi-hat pedal socket, there are 3 other trigger sockets. One of them is a single zone. Currently I've got that connected for the bass drum pad. And the other 2 are dual zone sockets. So that means you can either use a stereo drum pad, that is one with a head zone and a rim zone for rim shots, or you can actually split that out using a Y cable, like a left and right cable, and you can connect 2 separate single zone pads. So in total you can have 5 trigger pads plus the hi-hat pad. Now you can either use that to make a little drum kit, you can set up extra little pads around your percussion setup if you want to, or you can actually use the external acoustic triggers, which is what I often do, and I put them onto my drum kit. So you can trigger a whole acoustic drum kit either with normal drum heads or mesh drum heads, and have that all connected into the multipad and have it as part of a great big setup where you're triggering electronic sounds and you're playing your acoustic sounds all together. And on top of that, if you want to, you can also connect the stereo microphone into here, as I have done, to capture the sound of the whole drum kit. So that gives you 5 triggers on your acoustic kit, plus a stereo microphone to capture the cymbals, all going into the Strike Multipad, along with any pad performance, and straight out of the outputs, either the main outputs or the auxiliary outputs. Now when you think about that, it gives you a very, very powerful, flexible hybrid capture. So you don't need any other microphones. You've just got everything captured on your acoustic drum kit going out of the Strike Multipad outputs. And that's actually the setup that I'll be showing next week. So if you're interested in how that's going to work with a real drum kit, stay tuned for next week's show, and I'll show you that. Going back to this kit, we've got an external bass drum pad and an external hi-hat trigger. And there is actually one loop on this patch as well. Again, all using the built-in sounds. We've got a nice open and close hi-hat there, and the bass drum pad being triggered with a separate drum pad there. Now this one is perhaps a little bit silly. This is a completely made-up patch. It's not one of the sounds are built in, but it's a patch made up by myself. You'll probably be able to tell why it's silly. There we go. As I was going through all the built-in sounds on this, I found some classic 1980s computer game sounds, and I just couldn't resist putting them in. So there you have it. Now this one, a bit more serious, this patch. This is one of the built-in presets, and this actually demonstrates how you can use pad grouping to allow you to have an expressive multi-sampled snare drum sound performance. So what we've got here is all these pads that are in blue are grouped together. They're all part of one group, and what it means is that it doesn't matter which one you play. I'm losing a camera there. Which one is it? Oh, we've lost the main camera. So all these pads in blue are grouped together. It doesn't matter which one you play. The effect will all be the same. However, the way this group has been set up is as you play louder, it goes through the pads until so we've got quiet to loud snare drum samples. There are 8 different samples on this particular patch, going from quiet snare drum samples to loud ones, and each one of them has been given a specific part of the volume range. So just to show you, as I play quietly, I can choose any of the blue ones. This one here will trigger. Then as I get louder, it goes right up to the loudest one there. So this is another way of using pad grouping and specific volume ranges to be able to play a snare drum with 8 different volume samples, 8 different samples of different volumes, to give you quite an expressive sound. So there you go, that's one of the presets, just showing off another way to use this kit, another option for you. Have we got our main camera back? Nearly. There we go. Right, let's have a look at, now this patch, this one here, I've used this patch to show you how you can use the lights if you're running backing tracks. We just had a question, bear with me just one moment, we've got a question here. Oh. We might have a problem with our stream. Just bear with me one moment. Oh, there we go. We're back. Okay. I've got a question here. How do you physically mount the pad? And the answer to that is it's a standard module mount. I can't quite show you here because it's underneath the pad, but this pad shares the same mounting holes. It's got 4 mounting holes underneath it, and it shares the same mounting holes as most of the other pads out there from other manufacturers. So it's the same as the Alesis modules, and we do a product called the Alesis module mount, which is a little plastic stud with a plate, and it mounts underneath, and then you can just use a drum multi-clamp. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is there's a product called the Alesis Multipad clamp, which is like a ball and socket boom arm. But basically, the Yamaha pads and the Roland pads all have the same mounting hole spacing as this one. So if you happen to have an existing module mount or pad mount, chances are it will fit the mounting holes in the back of this no problem. So hopefully that answers your question. But if you Google Alesis module mount, then you'll see the product that I'm talking about. It's a plastic plate with a little stud, and if you screw that to the bottom of the multipad, you can then use a multi-clamp, standard drum multi-clamp, to hold onto that, and you can sometimes put it directly inside a cymbal holder, like the bottom part of a cymbal stand. It will fit in that as well. So that's how this is mounted. That's the way to do that. Okie dokie, let's see what else we've got. So we are up to actually, I'll tell you, I'll just answer that question on the chat because that might be helpful if I can. There we go. Hopefully that will help. All right. So, yeah, this particular patch is set up to show you how you can run backing tracks and how you can use the lights. So I've got 2 different backing tracks. These tracks are just basically like 5-minute long stereo WAV samples. That's all they are. But just to give you an idea of the different ways to do it. So if we hit this pad over here, so what's happened there is that the light mode on this particular pad has been set to the audio intensity mode, like the VU meter mode, the audio breath mode as we call it. And what that does is that as it receives a sound, it flashes. And that's very useful because with this particular one, there's a count-in, and that audio count-in, that click, actually is directly represented as a visual click there. So that's one way of using the lights when you're running backing tracks to help you keep a track of what's going on. You're actually getting a visual count in there as well. Now on here we've got a different sound, so let's see what the light does for that. This is the fill mode. There we go. So what that's doing is it's giving us a representation of how far into that sound we are. Now because that's quite a long sound, it will go very slowly from left to right. So that's another way of using the lights to tell you what's happening. You can look at that and you can see that you're part of the way into your backing track. Most importantly, you can see that it's started, because as we mentioned earlier, if there's lots of sound happening, lots of crazy things happening around you, so it can be very hard to tell the status of the audio. What's the audience hearing? Did that start properly? So you can tell by looking at it exactly what's happening there. So very, very important. Right, what else have we got here? Now this patch is, I use it to show that we can do some live looping on here. I'm just going to take a moment to have a look at that camera, because it's beeping at me over and over again, and I don't think it's very happy. I think we might have a problem with charging. So let me just bear with me one moment. Let's just switch that up. There we go. So, okay. Sorry about that. So, right. Here we are. So this one I use to demonstrate how you can just do some looping in real time. Have a listen to the sounds. We've got some crazy ones up here. Now looping on this machine is very easy. From the main screen we press the view button and we see our looping options. You can loop up to 16 bars. That's quite a long time. We're just going to do 2 bars for the purposes of this demonstration. And the next thing we need to check, if you're doing a loop as part of a live performance, you're probably going to want to have the metronome coming out of the headphones. But what we've got here is this unit is actually wired up by the main audio outputs into our audio device here. So in order for us to do this loop, we've got to monitor the click. So we need to hold the click button down. Then we get our click options, and we can decide the options you got. You can choose the sound, you can pan it, level, interval, and output. That's what we're looking for. We need to make the output go to the main. There we are. You can have it headphones only, auxiliary and headphones, or main and headphones. Let's do that one. So there we go. So now we're going to be able to hear it. There it is. And what's our BPM? 120. That's a bit vanilla. Let's go down. Let's try something like that. 107. There we go. So we've set it to do 2 bars, and we're ready to go. Arm to record. Now you can play over it if you want to, or you can record another layer. So we just made that loop in real time, and once you've made it, you can save it. You can save it as a WAV file inside the unit if you want to. In this instance, I don't think we need to save it, but it's an option. So discard your loop. If we select no, we'll be able to save it, but let's just discard that, that's fine. So that's how you make a loop on the machine. Very, very easy. Now what I'm going to show you next is I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use the bongos. There we go. I'm going to switch the mic on. Now the microphone's on. There we are. And you can just do exactly the same thing as we just did there, but you can record anything going in through the main audio inputs as well. So I'll record a pad performance part first. And I'll do the bongo part. So that's how you can just bring in your external audio as part of the loop. It's very easy to do, and it doesn't have to be a microphone. I'll just switch the microphone off now. There we go. It doesn't have to be a mic. It can be an instrument, so you just plug it into the back. They're just straightforward TRS jack sockets. So it can be TS, I think they are actually. So you can bring in an instrument or a line level or a microphone. And you've actually got a gain pot on the back of the unit, so you can bring it all the way from microphone level to line level. So it's flexible. Plug in whatever you like, and just bring that in. And you can also record directly into the unit in just the same way. So it's the sample option. We go to our module view and go to sample. We need to come out of our looper first. Discard your loop. Go to sample. This is our sampling screen, and you can set your recording source. Record in is actually the audio inputs. That's what we'll be using. Or USB audio you can use as well. That's because the USB connection on here is also a stereo audio connection. So you've got two-way, two-channel audio input, in and out, like a sound card basically. So you can record directly from your computer if you found something on the internet you want to play, or you can record directly through the analog audio inputs, which is what we're going to do now using the microphone. So we're ready to go. I need to switch the microphone back on. There we are. Because this is actually a powered stereo microphone. And we can see on our levels there, it's working all right. Yep, that looks pretty good to me. Arm to record and start recording. Save new sample, save it. And it's saving it as sample 0003, so it's now become a user sound. So what we want to do now is navigate towards that. So let's find that sound. Go to sound. Just pick one of the sounds, doesn't really matter. Pick that one, and let's user. New sample. There it is, that's our new sound. There we go. Okay, now we can edit that as well. So first thing we can do is have a look at it, because we didn't start straight away. I mean, I pressed record, then I started playing, so we need to chop the beginning of that. So the way we would do that is you can edit it there. And you can zoom in as well if you want to chop the waveform right up to the beginning like that. And same for the end as well, and so on. Save that, and there you go. There's our sound there. So you can edit audio that you've just recorded on the actual screen. You can also export it. So once we've done that, let's come out of there and go to Utility, Backup, Sample Manager. We can select all the samples, all the user samples we've made, and we could just export them onto a USB drive. And you can actually bring sounds into the unit in the same way as well. So importing sounds is done the same way. You put them on a USB drive, and then you bring them into the machine. So quite straightforward in terms of managing your content. You can import it and you can export it onto a USB thumb drive. Right. Okay, now we have lost our main camera, so I can't see you in person now, unfortunately. But I'm still here. So if you have any questions, please do let me know. And yeah, you know, apart from that, I think we've reached the end. So I appreciate your attendance today. I really do. Any questions, you can always reach out. You can get hold of me via Bax, or you can reach me directly as well. jfisher@inmusicbrands.com. I'm always happy to receive any kind of queries or questions. The unit itself is very powerful, and there's lots of different ways it can be set up. So if you're thinking about using the Strike Multipad in a professional environment, feel free to reach out, and I'll be able to give you some guidance on how I think you should hook it up, and some tips on getting the best out of it. Apart from that, I think we are good to go. So Yep. Okay, great stuff. Well, thanks so much, everybody. And please do tune in next week, because I'll be doing another show like this, but I'll have a drum kit set up with some external triggers, and I'll show you how you can use the pad within a whole drum kit to get the most out of it that way as well. It's quite a surprising and powerful way to use it. And until then, have a brilliant week. Thank you very much for watching.